Hey guys, it's Wags with Ironman 4x4, and we're back in the shop today to show you how to get your RTB 078 Raid rear bumper installed on a 5th Gen 4Runner. So grab your tools because I'm gonna need some help and we'll get wrenching on this thing. I'm in our install shop and we're gonna be using our lift, but if you're at home in your garage and wanna lift your truck up a little bit to more easy height to work on to install this rear bumper, just please put your truck in park, set your e-brake, chalk your front tires. We definitely don't want anybody getting crushed. Let's grab our spare tire removal tools because we're gonna lower that spare tire down. It'll give us a lot more room to work. Also, you can pull your rear wheels and tires off if you want, but in this install, you don't have to. Here's a pro tip. If you're trying to lower your spare tire and your stuff's all brand new, they put quite a bit of paint on there. So if these square bolts are locked and you don't have a Phillips screwdriver or a wrench, see that square right there? Toyota made it so it fits right on top and you can crack it loose. It's kind of cool. You'll never use that information, but we'll start with grabbing a body clip removal tool. We're gonna pull all these little clips out. You've got 1, 2, 3 here, and then grab a 10 mil socket. We'll take out this guy. There's one down low and one behind the mud flap sitting right up there. All right. I always like to make sure I don't lose any of my OEM hardware, especially these little plastic Toyota clips. They're not cheap and I always break them or lose them. So I am gonna grab some foam and lay them out in this foam the same way they came out of the truck, because if I have to go back, or if I want to sell some of my OEM takeoffs, it's great to have everything laid out for the next guy. And I said 4, but there's a 5th sitting right there. So make sure and grab that guy too. Awesome, mud flap is out. We're gonna do the same thing over on the passenger side. So now we're gonna pull the rest of the hardware off. We have 1 here, followed by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we'll finish with 8. All right, let's pew these guys out. Did I tell you that they're all 10 mil? Did I tell you that? Hey, guess what? These are all 10 mil. Did I tell you that? Sometimes I'll just take a tool, throw it on the ground. All right, we got the truck in the air, that's what makes it nice having a lift, because we need to get 4 more 10 mil bolts. Rear passenger, you've got one right here that's recessed. This can stay, that can stay, that can stay. This one here comes out, and same thing on the driver's side, it's recessed up in here. So we'll pull all 4 of these. I think we should be able to get the bumper skin off. And the last one. Don't forget to pop off this trim piece around your hatch latch. We're about ready to pull the bumper skin off, but this could get hung up, so. Well, that sucks. I guess I'll be stealing gas from the company now, because they can't stop me, because they changed their stupid locks out. Good job, 4Runner. Yeah, Tundra's been doing it forever. All right, here's what we're gonna do. If you've got a buddy, which I do, Zach is gonna help me out on this. You can do this by yourself, but you risk scraping or scratching something, and I don't wanna do that. So we've got a blanket laid out. We can set this on, so make sure you're ready, because once this comes off, you're gonna have to set it down. You don't wanna beat it up. Zach's gonna pull on his corner from the fender out. I'm gonna pull on mine. This will all unsnap, and we can just take it right off the truck. All right, we'll pop our styrofoam piece off. Don't wanna break it. Oh yeah, it's stink bug. Weep. Now, obviously, you can go through your inventory list and figure out for yourself, but these are our main brackets that bolt onto our chassis. We've got the side wings, we've got recovery points, you got shims, which we need. We've got all of our little bracketing for the top plate when we go to put that on, and then just bolts, nuts, washers, all that. We've got our little popsicle sticks or sparklers, because we gotta feed these nut plates through in the frame. It's a little difficult, so you can actually bend these in. That's why they're kind of like serrated like that, so you can bend them to get them just right. Okay, now that we're good there, let's pull a couple more pieces off of the truck, and then we can start installing some of the Ironman parts back on. This is your blind spot monitoring sensor. Now we're going to have to remove these and you'll lose that feature. There's one on the driver and the passenger side, but it's worth it to get all that heavy duty armor and rear protection on your truck. Unhook your plug by pressing the tab down on the end, pops right out, and then we've got a couple of these 10 mils. All right, we got to get this tow hook on our rear passenger side off, so grab a 17mm socket and we'll zip these two big bolts off. On the rear passenger side, we've got the exhaust hanger right here. So this rubber hanger bracket, what I'm going to do to give us a little more room to get our bumper mounted, I'm going to grab a rag, tuck it up behind here, and then I'm going to spray some WD-40 on here. Now you can use silicone spray, whatever you got laying around, but you want to try these rubber hangers are kind of a pain to get off, even when they're new. So we'll put a little lube on there, we'll grab ourselves a pry bar, and then we're going to try to get this guy pried that way. So I'm going to push the top over as far as I can get it, and then, there we go. Now once you get it to pop over that outer barb, it'll slide right off. Now with the exhaust loose, it'll give us a little more wiggle room to work when we're putting the bumper on if we need it. All right, now we got to take off the trailer harness plug, which is this bracket here. We're also going to take these spare tire supports off. So grab yourself a 12mm socket. We're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 back up there, 5, and then we're going to do the same thing over here on the other side. That's got to come out too. Go, and we'll let that hang for now. And 2 on the back side there. And rear passenger side, we'll take those 2 out. And the last one's right here underneath. We got these big beefy chassis brackets we can finally get on the back of our 4Runner. Don't forget, the left one's stamped L for left, R for right. That way you don't get them confused. Hang that up there just like that. Now, we're going to grab this M10, I think it's 50 mil long, and the longer sparkler, popsicle stick, whatever you want to call it, that's got the 90-degree bend in it. Because you're going to feed it right through the frame like that and work it all the way down here and lay flush up there. So that's kind of what you're going for, just like that. Now, we'll feed it through the frame rail. Don't drop it, and with your couple fingers and your thumb, you just spin it down. And we'll get it finger tight. And that's really probably the hardest part of the entire installation. But now that I showed you how to do it, it should be easy for you. Okay, that's finger tight. Now, we're going to grab the shorter sparkler. Same bolt setup. So we're going in through the same hole, but it's got to fit just like that. Push it through there. Okay, get the washer centered up. We are on to the next step. Remember when we took our rear tow hook off and set it aside? Well, we're going to grab these M12 by 55 bolts that came in our kit, and we're going to feed them right here into the threaded frame. So we'll just spin them in, get them finger tight, and then you'll notice there's a big gap there. Well, we have got some shims that we need to plug right in there. Now you should have gotten 6 of these shims. They look just like that. They look like an M or an E or a W or a 3. So just remember all that. So we're going to take this 3-pack of shims, and from the outside we're going to push it in just like that. There we go. And that's how those go. And we'll just tighten our bolts down finger tight. All right, let's get these recovery points on. They're going to fit on the inside right there, and make sure they're stamped with your working load rating. I like to run mine in, so if you want to see it, you can just kind of pop your head up underneath the bumper. They're sitting right there. We're going to take these M12 by 50s, run all this through just like that. Get a couple bolts in here, and then it'll hang. There we go. And then we'll take our flat washer, split washer, nut setup, and we'll get those guys all just snug. And I forgot to mention, make sure to push those little spider legs back inside the frame. It looks clean, don't cut them off, because if for some reason you need to unbolt this, you can just pop them back out, unzip your hardware, and you still get to keep your nut plate. But for now, you're gonna hide back in there. All right, now we're gonna grab one of our wing supports. This has got an L stamped on it for left side, and it's gonna fit like that so that the 90-degree bend is down and it's flat going up. Right here on our frame rail, we've got 1, 2, 3 threaded holes. We're gonna use the front 2. Grab your hardware and we'll thread it right into this threaded insert in the frame rail. So I'm gonna grab a 13mm socket and tighten this up a little bit, and then back it off. I want this loose because when we hang our bumper shell, that side tube is going to be right in this area, and we want some adjustability here. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Let's also not forget to get our trailer wire harness bracket put back in. We'll take these 12mm bolts. Got that, that. Now we can tighten up all of our recovery points, the chassis mounting brackets, these bolts underneath here where our shims go. We'll get it all locked down. All right, let's get these guys right here. So grab an 18mm socket and we will get these things tightened up. This is a 16. We'll get him tightened down. And don't forget to grab a 12mm wrench and tighten these guys down. And don't forget the other side. And this top guy is also a 16. You got an 18mm wrench and an 18mm socket on the nut side. Cool, same thing on the other side. Now we're ready to hang this bumper shell. Thanks, Zach. So just watch that recovery point slot there, because these will pilot right through and we don't want to scratch them up. Look at that, and it should just hang. And the bolts you need are the last 4 that you have, these last 4 big ones, M12 by 40 mils. So we will just feed them through here. Grab yourself an 18mm socket and wrench, and we can get those tightened up. And once you get them snug, then we can set this so that it's in line and plumb with our body line on the back here. So you might have a tendency to go, well, I'll just put a level on this and get it level. But guess what? One, your truck's in the air, so your truck's not gonna be level, which means this isn't gonna be level. So, in my opinion, the way to make this look the best is I'm gonna try to match this body seam right here. So, grab yourself a tape measure and match it up. Now you can grab your cut template and double check your measurement on the cut template and transfer it over here so that it lines up, and that's a good guide for where you want your bar. The other thing too is don't forget that cut template, it's just a rough guide, okay? You may want your bumper sitting a little bit higher up in the front, or some guys might want it matching this line and sitting down, or perfectly level. However you want it, it's your call, it's your bumper. So use that cut template, cut it a little bit longer than what you need to. It's just like a haircut, start slow, take a little bit off at a time, but it's a good guide. Once you get it aligned to the way you want it, lock your bolts down nice and tight so your bumper doesn't move on you. Now, if your 4Runner is a TRD Sport or a limited trim level, make sure you're using the specific cut template for that, because it is different from the SR5 and the other trim levels. Also, you won't be utilizing your eyebrows for that. The cut is just made straight across. Just make sure you got the right cut template, because once you start cutting a bunch of plastic out, there's no going back. So measure twice, cut twice. It's twice as fast. So transcribe your cut template measurements to your bumper. I like to tape mine out in blue tape. I've set it back an extra inch just because I'm going to do a couple test fits to make sure it's perfect. Now, a lot of people ask, yeah, but what kind of tool do you use to cut this? And frankly, it's kind of whatever you want. I've seen guys use a cutoff disc, which is a little rough. Again, this is plastic. Cutoff disc is going to get hot and you start to melt and throw like melted plastic everywhere. A jig saw works really well with a fine tooth blade. An Airsaw works well too. I love this little multi-tool, this oscillating tool. It works well for me. It's got a thin blade. And I almost forgot to tell you, take off this black plate because we're gonna reuse it. So grab a 10mm socket and we'll unzip these. This bottom one is a clip. And through a little bit of movie magic, you can see I've got it all cut out. Now, obviously, that first cut was a real rough cut. I went back through, verified with my template and with my tape off lines and made some fine tuning. Also, I've fit this bumper skin up several times just to make sure that things are lining up perfectly. And don't forget, depending on how you've hung your rear bumper, that fitment is going to change how you need to make your cut. So if I needed to level it up or get it, situated the way I want it with the 4Runner, I could just take small amounts of plastic off until I got it perfect. I think I have, but it's a good reminder for you, don't start with the thing installed really high, make your cut and then go, uh-oh, I wanna lower it down, because there ain't gonna be anything, you ain't gonna be able to add it back on. Now, even though you've got a 5th gen Toyota 4Runner, there actually are a couple small differences between the year range. This brand new 2022 one has something that I've never seen before, and I'm pretty sure this is a rear key fob antenna mount that they've put on. Not a big deal for us, but that top deck plate has to fit right in here. Good news is, all we have to do is just slightly bend this guy down 1/4 of an inch. Just like that, that top deck plate's gonna clear, no problem. All right, with this little antenna bent down, next thing we need to do is our spare tire brackets that kind of keep that spare tire mounted and held tight in place, these hoops. We want to put some of this thin foam on top so that when we set our deck plate on, it doesn't, slowly vibrate and sand itself apart. So we're gonna put that there. It'll help dampen vibration and sound. So grab yourself something to clean it with. You can use alcohol, or if you have Acetone. Again, if you have Acetone that cleans project residue, you can use that too. Stripping, huh? For a clean strip, try Acetone. It cleans all that dirty project residue. That's Acetone by Clean Strip. All right, now grab 5 of these M6 cage nuts, and you're gonna go up underneath, hook one side, and if you can use your fingers, great, and you can hook over the other flange. There you go, and then just push up. They pop right in like that. So we'll do all 5. Now we'll get our deck plate on. Fit just like that. And with the deck plate on resting there, before we put our hardware on, we're gonna grab our bumper skin, do one last test fit, then we'll pull the deck plate off and get our lights installed, because it's way easier to do the light install having access with the deck plate off. This is looking good. I'm also gonna set our eyebrows on here. Just, you really can't over check your clearance on your cut. All right, our cut's looking good. We've got all of our clearances set. I'm gonna pull these eyebrows off, take the deck plate off, set it aside, and then we will get the lights installed. Another tip that I try to always mention when you're putting these Ironman pod lights together is make sure the main mounting bolt that goes through this horseshoe bracket, you always want to start with that and then put the bracket around the light, because if you don't, there's no way to get that mounting bolt in. So we've got that all put together. And you don't want to forget these nice thick washers. You got 4 of these black thick washers here. That is going to go on top of the mount just like that. It helps space it down so positionally the light will sit perfect. We'll take our Deutsch plug pigtail, feed it through, and then tilt this guy back. If you can hold under the bolt with a finger, that'll help you. Again, try to pull it up. You want that bolt up against the that horseshoe mount, because it's got raised shoulders that will hold the head of the bolt in place. We'll take our washer, our nylock nut, and spin it down. So with my finger on the head of that bolt so that it's holding up against those shoulders, I'll grab a 13 and tighten it down. And I like to push it as far back as I can get it. So try to get that light positioned as best you can before you put that top deck plate on. And we'll get the next light here. Washer, spring washer, and a nut. Voila. I'm gonna get our eyebrows installed on our top plate before we put it on the truck because clearances are a little tight. So we want to just do the inside position. So I'm gonna put my serrated M6 nut on the top and I'll run the bolt up from underneath. Just makes it easier. So we'll tighten this inside position down, but the outside position, leave it open because this M6 bolt ties into the frame of the bumper. So we'll leave that open, do the same thing on the other side. So grab 5 of these M6 bolts right here, and there's these little clear plastic washers. So they're easy to lose, so careful when you're taking them out. We'll put those together and drop them down. And I'm just gonna spin those down and leave them loose because you can always use your Allen wrench to drop down and line that cage nut up too. So leave these 5 button heads a little bit loose so you still have some adjustability on this top plate, and then we'll get our last 2 outer side ones. Now this one, like I was telling you before, goes through the eyebrow. So that's where this is going, through the mount, and then with your other hand you may have to push down on that plate and we will fit that M6 up top. Cool, and that's in. Same thing on the other side. Now we can tighten down these cap screws, all 5 of them. All right, now we just gotta get the bumper skin bolted back up. We've got 2 of these Phillips hex bolts. It's a number 10. So we will, nice and easy, these guys right here, and don't forget they've got that soft rubber washer. And then you can kind of position, there we go. Okay, one of the last things we need to do is get our mud flaps back together. So this plastic trim piece that we removed earlier, we're gonna bolt this back together. So we will put that there. We'll grab one of these 10 mil screws. This zips back in here. And I like to do this on the ground because then it makes it a lot easier for reference when you go to put it back in the truck. So I like to do the top one first, and then we'll get the underside down there, 10 mil here, just snug for now. And then we're gonna put this guy up against that mount right there. So we'll put another 10 mil through here. Now we just gotta stitch it back together with a bunch of these 10 mils. You've got one right here. Now one thing I forgot to mention, you don't have to run your OEM mud flap setup on your truck. If you want to, it will work. You can put it back on, but if you don't like that look, or if you're running an aftermarket mud flap or a big fender flare, you can totally do what you want. Whatever you think looks the best on your truck. And last one is this plastic clip. Goes right in there. Okay, that looks good. So there is a bolt here on the end of the welded cap on this rear bumper bar. I don't like to bolt a mud flap into my bumper because your rear bumper, that's bolted to your frame rails. That is not gonna move. Your body is on soft body mounts. It's going to flex a little bit. So if you do bolt your fender flare to the bumper, I think it's just gonna tear apart. So the options are this. I don't wanna bolt that together. Instead, if you want this to lay super flush, you can cut this little section of the flap out to get it lay flush, or you can even cut a big circular piece out of here. I think this actually lays fairly flat like that, and I'm just gonna leave it. I've got great protection from rocks and all kinds of mud, keep my bar nice, especially all this area back up in here. You don't run some kind of mud flap, that's just gonna fill full of mud. And when it comes to wiring up your lights, it's kind of a dealer's choice on how you wanna do it. We don't know how your setup is on your truck. You may have a light switch panel like a aux beam or a switch pro, or you might just want to be running individual little button switches, mouse switches, something like that. If you need wiring harnesses and switches, we have those. You can check them out, Ironman4x4America.com. Look for wire looms. They're all right there. But just make sure that when you are running your wiring, try to loom things up, make sure you have good connections, and I always try to follow factory wire harnesses, usually on the frame rails, to get it up into the engine bay. Just something to think about. We've seen a lot of questionable wiring hanging down, and when it shorts out, it just ruins your stuff, and you don't want to start any fires. We are DUN done. The bumper looks great. heavy duty recovery points, good armor protection, and we get all that awesome benefit of having lights, so at nighttime we can light up our campsite or even hook up trailers in the dark. That's what I use it for. If you want to check out this bumper, learn more about it, or pick one up, go to Ironman4x4America.com. We'll help you out over there.